What's up, guys? It's your good buddy Andrew Cooper here, lead NFL analyst at Fantasy Alarm. We're talking best ball early on here. We've already touched on the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends. Those videos are all on the channel, so make sure you check them out. Make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss anything here. Today, we're going to look at quarterback, right? We're looking at the best values out there, and there's a misconception about quarterback in best ball. People think that because these guys slide down the board, that quarterback isn't important, but it's actually the most important position. A lot of times when you go and look at who's winning the big prizes in tournaments like Best Ball Mania, they all have the same couple quarterbacks. Hitting the right quarterback at the right value is huge. Last year, of the top 10 teams in Best Ball Mania, all 10 had at least one of Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, or Jared Goff. Some of those teams had multiple, but all those teams had at least one of those guys. Those guys got hot at the right time. They gave you the points you needed at the right time. So I'm going to go through, hit our best values here. You got to take two or three in these drafts. So taking one doesn't mean you can't take the others. The first one here that I really like a lot is Patrick Mahomes. And the thing is, people don't think that Patrick Mahomes has the upside anymore, despite this guy actually still having the all-time record for most passing yards per game in the NFL. Last year, it was kind of a dream situation for the Chiefs. They went 15-1 with Mahomes at quarterback. Obviously, he sat the last game of the season because they had everything locked up, and they just kind of cruised through. This year, I don't think it's going to be that easy when you look at the schedule. Obviously, teams in the division, the Broncos and the Chargers getting a lot better. The Raiders even got a lot better here. So I think maybe they have to throw a little more. Mahomes has to take a little more on their shoulders. They didn't really do a ton to improve the running game. And in fact, they moved on from Joe Tooney. I think Patrick Mahomes has just as much upside as these other guys going ahead of him, guys like Joe Burrow, right? What Joe Burrow did last year to get you there was he had a stretch of games where he essentially had to throw for 300 yards and three touchdown passes. Mahomes can do that at any given time. Of course he can. He's Patrick Mahomes. And this year, more than ever, as we mentioned in the tight ends episode, it's just as easy. It's more easy than ever to stack him with Travis Kelsey. You take Mahomes, you take Kelsey, bing, bang. I actually had a draft where I took three running backs and three wide receivers. Then I took Kelsey and Mahomes, feeling really good about it. Next guy on the board here that I like a lot, number two here, is Kyler Murray. People are down on Murray. They have bias about him because, they say, oh, he's not a winner. He's not a leader. He would be first in the chow line. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about playing video games. This guy is QB8 all time in fantasy points per game. He already came out and said this year that he wants to run more. He's going to be on a better page with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's already got Trey McBride. He's got Michael Wilson. He's got good running backs there. I think that he can actually take a step forward this year. And where he does it is on these intermediate to deep routes. He's already been very good at the very short passes, getting the ball out quickly to guys like Trey McBride, was top three quarterback in passes under 2 seconds last year per fantasy points data suite. He also can scramble. We know that he has that ability. He's a couple years removed now from the injury. I think that if he can get through and take a step forward with those intermediate throws, right? Pass up on the short throws to make some of the intermediate throws to guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., who was open a lot, as we talked about in our wide receiver video. Then he can take the next level, throwing the football, and get back to the years that he had with DeAndre Hopkins, where he was like QB3 in fantasy football. Right now, he goes off the board QB8, pick 95. So we're loving that value. Coming up right behind him is Bo Nix. And I've got an article up that kind of goes through all these guys as well, if you want to check that out at fantasyalarm.com. But the short and sweet for Bo Nix is that statistically speaking, what really was the difference between him and Josh Allen? They both threw for a very similar number of yards. In fact, Bo Nix threw for more yards per game. He had a better completion percentage. They both ran right around 100 times, 92 times for Nix, 102 for Allen. The real difference was Josh Allen scored 12 rushing touchdowns, and Bo Nix scored four. The rushing touchdowns can be fluky at times. And both these guys, honestly, if you're looking at the passing and the rushing ability, it's not that far off. I mean, there's a world where Bo Nix takes that step forward with Cortland Sutton and Evan Engram and RJ Harvey and Pat Bryant, and he's in that realm. So I'm jumping in there and I'm grabbing him, at ADP, sometimes a little before, but not before Kyler Murray. So for me, Murray goes like QB7, Bo Nix like QB 8 or 9. I think that's a good spot for him. Now, when I look at Bo Nix versus Josh Allen, I start looking around at other guys that offer similar statistics. And when you look at Drake May, going much farther back there at QB 16, what really was the difference between him and Bo Nix? I mean, Drake May was running for uh, a, a lot higher yards per attempt to the point where only 13 games and on only 50 attempts, Drake May actually had a very similar yardage total to Bo Nix, who had 92 attempts. We're talking 430 yards for Bo Nix, 421 for May on almost half the attempts, right? His yards per attempt were for Drake May was higher than Bo Nix, and they added weapons here. And people will say, "Oh well, the Broncos are a much better team. They're going to obviously win more games." I mean, if you look at MGM Sportsbook, they have the Broncos at a 9.5 win total, and they have the Patriots at an 8.5 win total. So, are they really that much better team? They both have good defenses. The Broncos have arguably the best defense in the league. So the wins aren't coming from there. So for me, I look at it and I say, you know what? If we're in on Bo Nix at ADP, which we are, then we definitely are going to be in on Drake May at ADP, which we are. So I'm absolutely taking all four of those guys so far: Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Drake May. Number five for me is Matthew Stafford. And now people are going to say, well, Coop, you gave us Patrick Mahomes, who obviously throws for huge numbers. You gave us a bunch of mobile quarterbacks. Where are you getting at with Matthew Stafford? And something that's worked for us, Howard Bender and I have been doing it for a while, John and Pemba as well, is a little bit of arbitrage, right? So we look at the wide receivers and where they're going, right? So you look at Jamar Chase goes in the first round, T. Higgins goes in the second, third round or so. Joe Burrow goes at pick like 50, QB6. Because if you're going to support the superstar wide receivers like that, you're going to put up big numbers, right? So I look around and Puka Nakua goes in the first round like Jamar Chase, and Devontae Adams goes in round 2, 3 like T. Higgins does. But Matthew Stafford goes off the board at QB 25, over 100 picks after Joe Burrow. Where what Joe Burrow did, as we mentioned, is came out and he had a couple 300-yard passing games and threw for 3 touchdowns at the right time during the season, during fantasy football playoffs to get things done for us. And when you look at Matt Stafford with Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua, why isn't he capable of coming out and having big games for us? Like, why can't he put together a stretch of games where your Puka Nakua, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford stack doesn't win you $1 million the way that your Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow stack did, and you can do it at a fraction of the cost. So for me, I look at Joe Burrow at QB 25. Joe Burrow at QB 6 and Matthew Stafford at QB 25, and I'm definitely going to pepper some Matthew Stafford in there. And I gave you five here, but I'm also going to sneak in a bonus one like we did for wide receiver and tight end, and that's Tyler Shaw, right? Of the New Orleans Saints, Derek Carr has retired, right? And when you look around this last round pick range, there are some options, right? And I have no problem with people betting on those. Like if you think Russell Wilson's going to keep the job all year for the Broncos, then go for it. But there's a chance that he could lose that job when it matters most down the stretch and really hurt your team. Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart, we don't know if they're ever going to get the job. We don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph in that game. We don't know what's going on with the Browns and who's going to run the show over there. The guy that seems to have the best odds of getting the job and holding it all year is Tyler Shaw. And I mean, the guy had 7 seasons in college football. I know it's not the NFL, but it's a pretty high level. He's got Kellen Moore coming in, who just won a Super Bowl. He's got Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson. And those passes to Alvin Kamara, those count for fantasy football. I mean, Drew Brees had all these great passing seasons while Alvin Kamara never had a single 1,000-yard rushing season because they used the pass as the extension of the run game. And that's a great thing for the quarterback. So I look at a guy like that, and with my very last pick, I'm willing to go there. So there's 5 quarterbacks plus a bonus for you. Make sure you're checking out all this other content we have on here with some sneaky picks. And if you just want all the answers to the test, I have my 2025 Fantasy Alarm Best Ball Guide up now. I update it kind of whenever I do drafts, whenever news happens. So it will be updated all year if you grab a copy. If you're a Fantasy Alarm member, you already have access to it. Just download it, or you can grab it on a standalone basis, fantasyalarm.com, and then search 2025 best ball cheat sheet. I do a whole tiered grid in there so you can see where guys are valued compared to ADP. Really, really helps your game. I used it last year to finish in the top 0.03% of Best Ball Mania, win a couple $1,000 there, which was nice. So get your copy of that. Till then, I'll see you guys out there in these best ball streets.